Hello again, it's Carol King, the founder of Custom Home Builder Solutions, also known as CHS, and we are about to do Lesson 10 in our series of CHS seminars. So what can I tell you? Bookkeeping for builders never ends. People are running around using credit cards, debit cards, or writing manual checks. Then there's the overhead bills to pay. And then a home buyer customer goes out and pays for some job cost like their refrigerator or something, and we need to account for that. Or the owner of the company pays a personal check for some job cost or company expenses, and so much more. So I'd like to tackle some of those things, showing how to pay overhead bills, how to post a manual check, how to take care of it if a customer pays for something, how to take care of debit card charges and credit card charges, all in this one lesson pretty quickly. So let's get started. Okay, let's see if we can run through posting some overhead bills, paying them, and some other unusual things that I mentioned just a second ago. So let's go to Post New Payables and Charges from scratch, and we'll do an overhead bill. So let's do one for AT&T phone bill, just the general one for the office. And what I'd like to show you real quickly again is the setup for AT&T. And notice over here that I have a default GL account for telephone expense, department overhead, and I also have a default description that's going to drop in. So I'll show you how quickly all of those things that you did to set up the vendor will make it so that you enter the bill quickly. And oh, by the way, I said that the bill would be due 20 days after the invoice date. So let's just pretend that the invoice date is June 2nd. And notice how that changed to June 22nd. Since there's no invoice number on telephone bills, I'm just going to put in the date of the bill. And let's say our bill is for $513.69. And let's also say I want to upload a copy of the bill. And I'll get down to my Roberts folder of bills. And I have an AT&T phone bill right here, and I'll just put ATT June 2021 as the title, save it, and we can double check that we have the right thing attached to it. It's 51369, so we got the right one. So let's just submit it. Now notice how fast I could do all of that, and if I didn't do an attachment I'd be much faster. I could have just submitted a minute ago, but if you're wanting to do an attachment, of course, then you're going to need to do that. So let's post that as unpaid. And we can view our entries real quickly if we need to. Notice that we have the paperclip icon, etc. Anyway, that's a simple overhead bill. Let's do a little bit different AT&T bill, and that happens to be the one that goes to the owner of the company, James Randall. Now notice over here a note or alert, so that let's pretend that the owner comes in, hands us his bill, and says, I want 50% of it posted to the office and 50% to personal. So half to owner, GL 2960 overhead, half to company, GL 8600. So let's do a quick bill, which is what you do if it's not job related. And you'll notice that the generic H job drops in, and that can't be changed. That just means it's an internal bill. It's not going to any job. And let's just say this one's on June 2nd also. And it also dropped in ATT James Randall. It dropped in the first one. I decided that to be the default so that I wouldn't have to remember it so well. Let's use 6 digits for the date of the bill. And let's just say the bill is 312.5, whatever it might be. But right here, let's put a 0.5 so that it'll cut it in half. Notice that the total is now half of that. And let's copy it. And let's do it to 8600 for telephone expense like we saw on the other page. And our department's the same. Sometimes you might change the department. And it got copied, so the net due is 31250 that we'll be writing the check for. But part of it got charged to owner draw. Part of it got put to business, general, and admin expenses under 8600. So let's just submit that as unpaid to pay in our check run later. Now I'd like to do one more, and I'd like to take a look right here at this button that makes it very handy for you to look at balances in your liability accounts. So we are going to post a loan payable payment to South Star Bank, but I like to take a look just real quickly at what it's showing on our chart of accounts that's due. $100,000 is the principal balance on that loan, because let's say we just got the loan last month or something, and this will be our first payment. And somehow it was an online payment, or the bank is just auto drafting it from our bank, one way or the other. It's come out of our bank without us doing a check. So let's go ahead and do that one. Let's do South Star Bank. And this is how you would post something that's already been paid and not posting as unpaid, South Star Bank, and it says principal to 2510, interest expense to GL 8241. So let's post a quick bill to that. Hopefully you have a way to look it up, or you've got a loan statement so you know how much is principal and interest. But it's important in accounting, and you should understand some stuff about accounting, that you put principal and interest when you make a loan payment. So let's say the invoice date, it really happened on the 10th of the month for whatever reason. We'll just leave it at that. And we'll do 061021 for the invoice number. And we notice that our first one dropped in already, which is loan payable. Now I'm going to pay like our loan payment is for $3,000 a month, and the interest is $333.33. So that means the principal was $2,666.67, but I saw that on the statement. I didn't have to go calculate that. And then I'm going to select the one that it said to use for interest expense on loans, which is interest expense bank loans 8241, and I'll put that amount to interest, and you'll see that our net due is $3,000. Now when I submit this, I'm going to post payment or print check. In this case, I just want to post the payment. First of all, it's asking me which cash account, and most of the time we run a bunch of checks out of our construction. But that's why it dropped in. We said that's the most common one we use, so it dropped in. So I need to make sure I change it to the right checking. And we said that's on June 10th. So let's change the date of the payment to June 10th also. And then let's just post it as paid. Do not print check. And then it's going to show us what's been posted with all of that. And you can see that it's showing paid, it's showing the cash account, and the two entries that were made. And if I close this and just take one more look at that loan, just because I want to, it was down here. Let's open the report and notice that now the principal balance has been reduced by the amount of that part, just the part that we put to principal on that entry, and the interest expense would have gone into general and admin expenses. So that's just a little tip there. Now another thing you can do if you're entering a bunch of things, you look at your bank statement and you see that there's debit charges to gas or debit charges to restaurants. You could set up a vendor called gas, for example, and you'd set it up. Notice that I just put gas as a default description. I selected a GL number to drop in for us. Vehicle expenses is what he uses, and overhead expenses. You could also have one for restaurants. We have a couple of them. Restaurant business and restaurant travel. This one goes to a travel GL. This one goes to a business. It's all up to you, but I would not be making entries since you need to post your bank debits or credit card charges. I wouldn't have a whole bunch of like Shell, Exxon, who knows what, Stripes, and this and that, and then a bunch of restaurants set up to be able to post it. So do some generic vendors like this for when you're going to enter a bunch of things like gas. And you could do the same thing if it was a bank debit that I just did, where you post it as paid and on the date that it's paid, etc., to do bank debits, which is basically the same as what we did with that loan. But I'm going to do it as if we have some credit card charges. So let's just do quick bill, gas. Let's play like we have a bunch of charges. Maybe we have the credit card statement and we're looking at it, or we've gotten some slips, or whatever your policy is. Let's play like we're putting in some stuff, of course, that came in maybe in May. Somebody went to the gas station. And let's say we are looking at a statement that is dated 060921, and that's what I usually use for the invoice number as I start copying these down. And we could say Shell, Austin, maybe put the city if we want to, 34.92. Then we just start copying those credit card charges. We might change the date a little bit later. Somebody came and did gas at Exxon, Austin, whatever, and it's 49.32. We could do it one more. Let's just play like we're going to do one more at some other date, maybe on the 19th, who knows. Maybe it was still at Exxon, and it was for 23.92. So now what I'd like to do, and you could keep going up to 10 lines, and submit it. And I'm going to say post as paid by credit card. So let's select the credit card vendor, Bank of America, Visa. And what I'd like you to know is that there are some instructions here. Set up a credit card vendor like American Express. We did set up this BOA Visa as a credit card vendor, and we also went to our chart of accounts and we set up 2132 on our chart of accounts as a credit card payable, and we selected this vendor to be the vendor associated with that. Please watch more tutorials about setting up credit cards, but what's so great about this is we can post it to gas as the vendor, and in a minute we'll post one to, I think, ProBuild, and it will be stored under ProBuild but marked as paid by this credit card. So I'd like to submit that. And you can see again that all three of these got posted with a check number CC, and a credit was actually posted to the credit card payable account there on that side of it. But it still got posted for the GL account for the gas side of it over here, $87.50 for that vehicle expense. So that's the two sides of credit card entries. Now let's go ahead and just decide that we're going to pay ProBuild with a credit card. Now we're going to do a job-related bill, and we're going to do one for our N120 again. But notice that it popped up because when we set up the vendor, we said they give us a payment discount if we pay by whatever day of the month. So let's do yes, and it's preparing to post this amount over here as a discount. It wants to know if I want to post the discount to job cost. This is a fixed contract. Sometimes if it's a cost plus, maybe you don't want to give the owner credit for that discount that you're just paying. It's just up to your policy. But I'll post it to job costs, that discount that we're actually going to take on this. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to use a PO to make all of this much quicker. So we have N120, the framing package, which is what we're going to go ahead and pay for. And it dropped in an amount here and a sales tax amount, so it'll capture how much of this was sales tax. And that came straight through from the PO. Now it can be very likely that this amount is different and you're uploading a bill that's a little different, because it's pretty hard for a lumber bill to be exactly what we did the PO, but maybe they did a bid and they are just billing us for that. But we're going to take this discount of 2%. CHS went ahead and put in the same GL number. If I change it, it's going to change that GL number to that over here, and it dropped in a 2% that we set up for the vendor for the discount rate, and it's showing down here that we're really going to pay this much. And let's say we have some bill with some invoice number on it, and let's just say it is dated today, that we just got it over here, but we are going to go ahead and pay them with a credit card, so we'll submit that. Pay it with a credit card, and it remembers the last one that I did, so it's pretty easy to say submit. And we'll take a quick look at the 3 entries I believe that probably got posted. First, here's the framing package without sales tax. Here's the sales tax line. I said in the last video, CHS, when there's sales tax, will make a line on its own for sales tax, so that if the home buyer asks how much has been paid for sales tax, you can do vendor ledgers or job cost actual reports and just ask for the one with a cost type of sales tax. And here's our other thing, our discount that got deducted. Now what we might want to do is go to our jobs dashboard, to the ECC for a minute. Let's refresh it. Let's go down to that framing materials. Notice that we have an ECC expecting more than this, but we know this is only for this amount. If we drill down, that discount did get posted to job costs because that's what we agreed to do, but we're not expecting any more for this framing package right here. So we're marked it as done. So now we have the minus 507 for that 2% that we just applied. So after looking at what happened with the framing package and things going down minus 507, I clicked the refresh button, and I was surprised to see that now over budget was 584 instead of the 2,000 it was when I came in. So I'm kind of looking around and thinking, what happened here? And I noticed that on demolition, it's now showing minus $1,000, and that somebody, probably the big boss, has typed in an amount that they know about. And if I click on this to look at it, it's saying posted by Jimmy, Clayton Construction has said that they will be charging $9,725 instead of $10,725. So that's a good thing, a good reason why everybody should be over here constantly checking the ECC. Now we haven't had any posted costs, and now somebody tells us they did write a check for $9,725. We just got a phone call. This all just happened, but now we're only over budget by $584.82 because of this going down $1,000. So I'm the bookkeeper. I get word about this check and what the check number was because somebody came in and asked me for it, I already know probably, and wrote a manual check out to Clayton right away for this. And somebody also has come in, probably the field or whoever knows about this, or the big boss, and they wrote in to take $1,000 away even though the PO was for this, and they check marked $9,725. So one way is to create the bill from this purchase orders management screen, which makes it quick, but you can't do it right from here because you are on the ECC. You can do it if you open it from the jobs dashboard. So I will narrow it down to Clayton, and I'm going to open POs and cost management for this job on the jobs dashboard. And I see this one for Clayton, the 10,000. We apparently have some others for him. But I'm going to do create bill, and you're going to notice that it's only going to bring in this amount. But let's do that. So notice how it brought in $9,725, demolition, it's today's date, and everything's here for us, even an invoice number. There's not really an invoice. So I'm going to submit it, and this is what I'm doing, is showing you how a manual check can be posted real quickly. I'm going to select post payment or print check. And it's today's date, it's paid out of construction, and maybe we know that the check number is 4601, and we're just going to post it as paid. And if we drill down on the entries, we will see paid and by this check number. So that's super fast, how fast we were able to post that and show the posted costs against the PO. Now what we want to do is mark this PO as done, because we're sharp enough to know from all of that we were looking at that there is not going to be any more cost for this. So we marked it as done, so there's no more amount here for creating the bill. We'll just go ahead still and say the work is done. It will clear it out if not all of the PO has been applied. A good method when you learned that he was only going to charge this would have been to go and change the PO and send him the revised PO. But we're just jumping right past that because things happen so fast in builders' offices. Let's go back to the ECC. Let's refresh it. And we see that this much was applied, the amount that the builder did the revision to. And when a builder does a revision like this, that's what became the ECC. I didn't mention that just a second ago, but this kind of rules over everything else that's going here, because it's something you put in because you know that's all it's going to be, and we do know it's all it's going to be, so we might as well check mark this one as done and refresh our totals. So that's how quickly you can do a manual check. I'd like to show you a couple of things that have happened now on the home menu. And let's take a look under the payables stuff at cash and credit card balances for one thing. This is showing our cash accounts and our credit card balances. And actually, this was a brand new credit card, so everything we've posted in this video is totally to this balance of $27,063. Balances in credit card accounts are what they call credit balances, so they look like minus. But it's interesting to know how much cash you have and then take away what you're going to have to be paying for credit cards. So that's an interesting thing. So now let's pretend something else, and I'm going to show you a little trick here. The owner comes in and tells you, I went to Lowe's, I picked up a broom and a shovel for the job, Loveman 2, and I paid for it out of my own money, and I'd like you to record that as a job cost and that it's owed to me. So the trick that I'm going to show you is that I decided to set up the owner of the company like he is a credit card, so that we have a way for CHS to record the job cost, then post as paid by credit card, and we will select him as a vendor. So I'll open the vendors list and show you that real quickly. Under the R's, our owner is Jimmy Randall. Notice I have one here, Randall, James Randall. It says Randall due to owner. And if I go back to home and I go to my chart of accounts, I want you to also realize a little bit about credit cards by showing you this. And I'm going to go down here to liabilities. And I set up one due to owner James Randall. If you'll notice, there's a check mark here that says this is a credit card account. And if you open things that are credit cards, and when you're setting them up, you can select, yes, this is a credit card, and then it's going to force you to put in a related credit card vendor, and you can see I have Randall due in there. I went ahead and put that under current liabilities, where most of my credit cards I have under something, a section that I set up on the chart of accounts for credit cards liabilities. Here's the BOA, and it's marked as a credit card account, the one that we were doing a minute ago. I just wanted to show you that trick. So what we're going to do is go home, and we're going to post new payables and charges. And we know what we're going to do for owing the owner the amount that he spent and how to get it to the job. So we're going to say Home Depot is where this cost happened, and we're going to post a job-related bill. And there's no PO for this. This is something the owner just ran out and did, and we're going to select our Loveman job. And the cost code then that we're going to use is 5274. I just happen to know that already, but you might have to scroll. Is one for tools and supplies. So I'll use that. We'll play like it's today that this happened. And I'm just going to use 6 digits for the date for the invoice number. Again, if you have a real invoice, you're going to put the real invoice number here. Home Depot, JR buys broom shovel. I like to have good descriptions. And we're going to say, who knows how much that cost? I don't know. Maybe it was $35.75 and he paid tax on it. He gave us the little receipt. And so it was $38.70. So what we're going to do to submit this is like we did with the credit cards a minute ago. Submit. I know it's over budget. We didn't budget for those tools and supplies, but the owner went and did it anyway, so I won't take time to look at that. And I'm going to post as paid by credit card. And in the drop down, because I set up Randall Do on the chart of accounts, this way I can submit it and close. And if I go back to that chart of accounts and we refresh it, because it is showing us balances, you can see that right here, now due to owner is $38.70. At some point in time, back on the Create Bill screen, if I do Randall to pay him due to owner amount, it's going to recognize that this is marked as a credit card vendor, and we can do just a quick bill because we already posted the cost to the job. It's coming up and it's saying $38.70 is the balance. I can give it some invoice number of the date of when I'm paying him, and I can say the payment is this, and it will take you over to the Add New Bill screen so that you could post this as unpaid or immediately print a check for it. I won't go that far because I don't want this to be that long. I just wanted you to get the idea of that tip right there. Now, one more thing that is really weird that can happen is that the home buyer, whoever you're building the house for, might suddenly go pay for something out of the blue. And they might pay, let's just go take a look at our jobs dashboard and come up with something that they paid for. Let's reset our filters. Let's do POs and cost management. And I'm going to say maybe they paid for a dishwasher, but I'm checking to see if the dishwasher is there. Under appliances, which I happen to know is 5505, so I'm just taking a quick look here. Just wondering if it was already included on a PO. So it was to Ferguson. You can see total appliance package. Let's drill down to the PO. And let's look at the items behind the PO by cost code. And we can see there's a refrigerator for $1799 with tax $1947. So let's say they actually went out and bought a refrigerator that was for more money. Let's just call it $2,000. And we got told that they bought it. They brought in some sort of receipt or who knows what. So let's go back to the home from scratch. We got told that the home buyer paid Ferguson. And that's what we need to do. And I'll show you how the home buyer gets credit for this. Let's do a job-related bill. And we know that we want to select the PO for appliances. We can see that here, total appliance package for Loveman 2, not Loveman. So we got the 5505 dropped in. Let's say the home buyer did it today. Let's call it Loveman purchase as our invoice. Loveman paid for fridge. And say $2,000 was the base price and there was tax on that. So $2,165. Now this gets posted to Ferguson and against their PO, so that's cool. So when we submit it, the way you do that, if a home buyer goes out and pays for it themselves, is you do post as paid by voucher. First, the program will post the bills as unpaid. Then a window will open with info about posting bills that were paid by an outside party. So let's do that. There's all sorts of information here that tells you what will happen, and I will tell you what will happen is CHS will mark this as paid and will put a PV in front of the check number showing that it's paid by voucher, and we'll post it to revenues received from the home buyer, and I will show you that. You can do help right here to learn even more about it and see detailed tutorials about paid by voucher and watch those if you like, if you want to understand them more than what I'm telling you right now. And then I'm going to go ahead and submit this. It says the entries have been posted as paid vouchers, and if I drill down on those, you're going to see that 4 entries got made, because one side of this that's totaling to 0 has gone over and been put in as revenues to Loveman, and we'll look at that here in just a second. And one side has been posted to job costs right here. All of it has gone in and out of actual job costs, but 2 of them don't have cost codes. These 2 sides are the voucher revenue being applied, but because these 2 have cost codes, they're going to show up on job cost reports, which is really cool. And we can see that it was posted PV, that it was a paid voucher. So let's close this, close this. I'm going to jump back to the jobs dashboard, and let's take a look at the job revenues now for Loveman. Notice here we have 2 paid voucher ones that are showing up as revenues received from the customer. And if you do the reports right here, Report Central, and drill down on the contract revenues, revenues received, and just see a nice report of those, you can see here change order down payment and paid voucher clearing. And so they are getting credit for having paid us this much, $60,821. If you look at the current contract balance and look at the top of it, here's the detail down here. You can see they are getting credit for that. And if you look at the job cost report, actual job cost report, you can see that we've got this, all these things that we've been doing in this video have gone to job costs now. I know I'm scrolling fast, but let's go down here to the 5505, and we can see that included in our job costs is the same $2,165. So hopefully that gives you a quick idea of what is happening when some outside party pays for a bill. CHS is all set up because it's a smart job costing program. It's all set up for you to be handling all of these various funny things. Now I'm going to go back here for just one more second to create payables bills, and I'd like to show you there's more. If you click this about vendor credits and refunds, you can see that there's a full video tutorial about what to do if maybe you pay the lumber company up front. They just want money up front for several jobs. Say you pay them $100,000 up front, and then you're going to be applying that money to jobs over time, and how to track the credit that you have with the supplier. Also what to do if a vendor gives you a refund and how to handle that, and it gives you full information on that. I'm not going to take so long. You can find the videos about all of that. It also tells you about what to do if for some reason you're giving the home buyer a refund and needing to write them a check, which you would be using this payable screen, but it gives you very much detail. It steps it out in verbiage and videos so that you can do that and figure out what to do about that. It's also talking about paying off loans and what you might be doing, and it gives you a quick list to look at all your liabilities. So let's just start with the first one and the last one, and our credit cards should be in here. So let's take a look. Here's our credit cards right here. Credit card, credit card, credit card, credit card. Payroll taxes that we might owe. Payroll liabilities. Here's our amount due to owner right here. This is just a quick report to look at all of your liabilities. If you're getting ready to pay off somebody or pay off something, I also end up suggesting when you're doing your payroll taxes to just open it up and then just do a range of the payroll taxes, that kind of thing to look at. But there's also information and help about all of that. It's just helping you out if you're about ready to pay off something, like maybe that mortgage that we did in a demonstration of paying South Star Bank. Maybe towards the end of it you'd like to pull that up and see what your principal balance is. So hopefully this gives you a quick look at doing overhead bills, doing strange other things, manual checks, paying by credit card, posting something that the owner went out and bought from his own account and getting it on your books as due to the owner, and if the buyer goes out and buys something, etc., etc. So much happens in a home building office, doesn't it? And it takes some knowledge, but it's great to have a tool that will give you things that you can use to take care of all of these unusual circumstances. So stay tuned. We will be talking about printing the checks that we posted as unpaid and various other things in the next tutorial seminar videos. Thank you for watching.